Try and stay focused. Let me start by saying that there are parts of this bond that I do support. However, I have some concerns. I have seen posts, both pro and con, in our news sources and social media. The most common cry is disinformation, so I just want to encourage everyone, and especially the Midland Daily News, to use the MPS's data in that Form 3881 that was submitted to the Department of Treasury as the key reference, so we have data. First, I was shocked when I heard that the $285 million bond was actually estimated to cost $487 million over the term of the bond. I was quite surprised. I also note that the 3.9 millage rate is only for the first year. That's on top of page 7 also, and can increase significantly as needed to cover the actual cost. So taxpayers need to understand when they vote the long-term impact on their property taxes and decide. I've also seen that the MPS budget has increased by 42%, from $79.5 million to $113 million since 2019. And our academic scores have not increased proportionately over that time. I've heard that we need new classroom furniture at significant cost to be able to teach according to the latest academic trends. If we have been using the latest methods at Central, then I don't see the results in the proficiency scores. Introducing free pre-K that is not means tested is a big driver in the high building utilization rates and costs. I believe that pre-K is currently planned for 4-year-olds. What about when the program expands to include 3-year-olds? We know that the lure of free pre-K will draw many more non-property taxpayers into MPS from other districts and not have to pay for that. Looking at the tens of millions for accommodating the infrastructure needed to bring in the pre-K, I have to ask, how many millions more will it cost in teachers, staff, and other associated costs? And will state funding cover the entire cost? MPS is also taking in a significant number of students that come from families that are not subject to the property taxes from this bond, which causes the overall utilization rate to be 94% after spending the entire bond. If 85% utilization is the target, then MPS needs to adjust the number of students from outside the district to match that target. We also have heard in these board meetings that yet another bond will be requested within the next 10 years. When will it stop? I know that you have the best interest of the students and you have the best of intentions, but my position is that this particular bond should be defeated and a more streamlined bond needs to be drafted. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, last on the list, I have Rose Roberts. Hi, Rose. Thank you.
Hi. I'd like to go back to the beginning, where we're all happy and wow, isn't this great? And the schools are doing great and the future teachers. That was impactful. I admire people that can do stats. I'm a more emotional person. I would rather be for something than against something. So for me to stand up here and say, no way, it's hard for me to do that. I'd rather say, yeah, let's go. Let me push. I'll push, but I'm not going to push for this. I want to start out with the meeting that I attended at the Senior Center on Friday. I was appalled, and this is in reference to a Northeast student. A mother said, my daughter couldn't use the bathrooms for a month. I had to come get her from school because she could not use the bathrooms. I said, what is that about? She said, one was vandalized, one was infested, she didn't say with what, and one had brown liquid coming from the ceiling, which happened to be the roof, but the kids didn't know. They're 12 years old. She said, the girls aren't going to tell the boys they can't go to the bathroom. I was appalled. I said, what? Don't we do maintenance? She said, well, they do it at night, so they're not going to report. I'm going, no, we pay for maintenance. This is obscene. I don't want my kids, my 12-year-old, not being able to go to the bathroom all day. Then I checked with my niece, whose kids go to Jefferson and Dow. She said, oh no, my kids won't use those bathrooms. They're filthy. She said they come home from school, wash their hands, and go use the bathrooms. That's not right. This is Midland Public Schools. It's just not right. Now, part of it's because I'm a germaphobe. I'm a retired RN, so this really hits me, but I want to protect those kids, for God's sake. We pay to have it clean. Please have some. If I were to report it to the health department, would we pass an inspection? Would we? Anyway, let's go on to the next part. Want versus need. We want a lot, and that's great, but what do we need? Mr. Roush has talked frequently about providing for the littles. What about the seniors who live only on Social Security? And there are many that do who come to the food handouts. One lady, I was told recently that one lady was crying because once she paid her mortgage and paid for electricity, she had no money for food. Who's going to protect them? They paid for these schools with their taxes all these years. They have to leave the home that they've been living in because they can't afford the $1 a day? No, they can't. They're stressed. Next point. A Facebook post stated that we're paying, now true or not, I don't know. This is just what I read. This is the information that's out there. $25,000 a month in a 2-year contract for our robotics. Am I for robotics? Absolutely. Great idea. I have nieces and nephews in it. Fantastic. How do we get into $25,000 a month? Who owns that building? Who's making that money? That's $600,000 in 2 years. We could have built half a school for that much money. Is there an audit of the MPS? I'm sure there is. Just availability. Where does the money go? Where does $100,000 go? What amount goes to teachers? The actual dollar amount. I looked at the. Oops. I've got a lot more to say, but for another day. But thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rose. Okay, that is the end of the list. However, if you did not get a chance to put your name on the list and you want to address the board, please feel free. Raise your hand.
Hi, Melissa Buchek. I'm generally a very positive person, but I'm here tonight to voice some more concerns about how I believe you're misrepresenting the bond to the public in all of your bond proposal materials. Why has academic excellence become a selling point for the 2025 bond? As we've already heard, there's some concerns with where it's at, and I know you just recently were given a presentation on it in January, and there's just a couple big boxes on those slides, like where you stand in the state. So 4%, 5% of certain subjects, but top 4 to 5% in the state of Michigan is not excellence. Your comparison is a false measure of academic excellence. Michigan sits at number 42 in the U.S. for education, and sadly, Michigan's average is not a benchmark for success. I've taken a look at the elite Michigan schools, which you compare to. I didn't have time to make you handouts. I'd be happy to email it to you. But to say that you're among the elite is also a far, far stretch from the truth. Did you know that MPS third grade reading levels compared to the state and elite schools and what they are? Last year, MPS was just 10 points above the state at 50%. But the elite schools, if you take an average of those 9 schools on your list, averages 66%. So you're still 15 points below these elite schools, which you claim to be at par with or in comparison with. As I said, I'd be happy to send this all to you afterward. I've seen you talk with nuance through all these programs that you have on your agenda tonight, and on the facility bond website, you slice and dice all the enrollment numbers. You pay consultant companies to make these long documents of how they've calculated the numbers, and your budgets are extensive, and you look at all those numbers with care. But why does academics not get that same care? Why are we looking at 2 squares comparing you to state data, and why are we never shown, as the public, this data? Why are we told on your website, there's no report, go to myschooldata.org and look it up yourself? There's no clear indication of you even looking into this. The trend isn't going up, and you seem much more excited to focus on the numbers when the units is in dollars. But I also don't think you're telling the whole story there. So you put a table out, it's on your facility website. It shows schools in the area, or lead schools and schools in the area, and what their bond millages are. And when you try to market your bond proposal in terms of where the millage is, you don't sit, those elite schools aren't sitting at a high level. They're sitting at, 3 of them are sitting at a 3 mills. So I think this project's all vanity. The buildings aren't going to bring academic excellence.
Thank you.
Say to visit the website. If you have questions, look at the website. Take the time to go through the FAQs. Take the time to read the work orders for the individual buildings. Get the facts about the bonds, about the rates, about the effect that it may have on your tax bill. And again, if you have questions, just ask. Reach out to any one of us. Reach out to any one of them. We will all take time to talk. The site, as you know, serves as a central hub of information, providing detailed project descriptions, financial breakdowns, and our presentation materials that we use at almost every meeting. You can get a copy of it online if we don't hand out copies at the meeting itself. Again, go to the source. Don't believe everything you see online. Don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe what I tell you. Go to the source and get the facts. Be an informed voter and tell as many people as you can to get out and vote. This is a really important issue for Midland Public Schools, so please get the information you need and vote accordingly. That's all I have to say as far as a bond update. Penny, is there anything you may want to add? Okay. All right. Okay.
Scott, I actually have two.
Fantastic.
There were two things that were suggested in public comment that I think that I want to respond to. One, when the history major starts talking about municipal finance, everybody should be nervous. So, Anna, if anything I say is incorrect, I want you to correct me. My understanding is general obligation bonds, or for general obligation bonds, the full faith and credit of the school district can be used to ensure repayment, meaning our taxing power. The alternative to that would be revenue bonds or limited obligation bonds for which only the revenue stream from that millage or financing source can be used. So the investing public views general obligation bonds as a safer bet because you can use the full faith and credit of the school district to repay them. So we get a lower interest rate. Is that generally accurate?
That would be my understanding.
So by issuing general obligation bonds, we are going to get a lower interest rate and hence pay less for the debt. And to do otherwise, we'd be paying more. If the investing public would buy $285 million worth of limited obligation bonds. Okay, so I just wanted to put, general obligation bonds are better for the taxpayer than the other options. Fair? Okay. Second thing is, hypothetically, let's say you're going to go to the bank, you want to buy a house. You're going to go to the bank and you're going to ask for a mortgage loan for $100,000. Over 15 years at 5%, that money costs you $142,342. I think we all anybody that's borrowed money, you go to a closing, you get that truth in lending disclosure, and it says, okay, you're borrowing $100,000, but over the amortization period, this is the total cost of the money. It's $142,000. But you don't go to the bank and say, I'd like to borrow $142,000, the present value of which is $100,000. We're doing the same thing by saying we're borrowing from the taxpayers $285 million. Yes, we're going to pay interest on that, just like you do when you take out your mortgage. It's not sleight of hand. We're being fully transparent about what we're doing. We're borrowing $285 million. So to say, well, it's 285, except really it's 400, suggests that we're not being honest with the taxpayers. And I just felt like we ought to clarify that. We're being fully transparent with the taxpayers about exactly what we're doing. And the suggestion that it's really 400, while true over the life of the loan, is misleading. So that's just my personal opinion. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, John. Any other points of clarification?
I'd like to point out that if we don't take the opportunity to fix or in some cases, replace some of our schools, we will continue to have the same monetary needs to fix or replace our schools. And ultimately, if the bond does not pass, that money comes from the general fund. When the money comes from the general fund, we have less overall money to work with. That generally means that our teachers suffer. That means that our kids suffer. So just saying no based on the principle that you don't believe that now is the right time to build a building or to repair our schools, when is the right time? Because ultimately, our kids will suffer if we don't take care of our buildings.